Hey humans, Susan Ruth here. How's it going? This episode we have Mr. Brooks Ingle, Firefighter. He has great stories, really interesting interview / conversation. I don't know what to call them. Are they interviews? Not really. Conversations, pretty much. Anyway, we talk about all sorts of things, experiences he's had, things he's seen. He talks some fire safety, a little bit of everything. I want to mention, if you don't already know, that there is a heyhumanpodcast.com, so heyhumanpodcast.com, where you can find lots of information. In fact, I'm putting links on there. Every episode, with every person I speak to, I try and put links on the website that are somehow correlated with the conversation that was had on the episode. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. Enough said about that. Let's get into the conversation with Brooks. All right, here we go. Hi, Brooks.
Hi, Suze.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Good.
So excited for Hey Human today. We've got Brooks Ingle, and he is a fireman. Isn't that cool? So I thought, well, what do firemen do? What do they think? What are they like? You're the first fireman. No, you're the second fireman that I have known, spoken to, but really the first fireman that I have spoken to more than a few, short sentences like, help! No. So how'd you get into firemanning?
Well, my dad was a firefighter, paramedic. Ever since I can remember, I grew up in the firehouse, and my mom was burned really bad when she was 5. Over 75% of her body.
Is that how your dad met your mom?
No, they went to high school together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, she, my grandfather was burning leaves in a 55-gallon barrel, and she had a polyester dress on. Then she walked out back and just got too close to it. She spent 2 years in the burn unit. Wasn't supposed to live. Was never supposed to have kids. She ended up having 2 kids.
Why, if you're burned externally, why would you not be able to have children? Just the trauma to the body, or?
Well, when you get burned, the burns kind of go from the outer surface of your skin and they work their way in. So you have skin tightening, and she had to have just numerous skin grafts, right? Right. So when you have all these skin grafts, your skin can't. They try to allow your skin to be able to stretch again, like a normal, us.
Sure.
And she didn't have that ability for her skin to stretch. Oh. So they just said, you'll never be able to stretch enough to have any children.
Oh, because the belly has to stretch.
Right.
No, how did she
therefore, in secondary to that, we wouldn't be big enough. We'd be premature, which I was premature.
You were?
Yeah, I was
5. You made up for last time, friend.
Thanks.
For all of you who can't see him, he is a strapping individual.
You're funny. But, so she had 2 kids. I have a sister, Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is she in fire things?
Nurse.
Oh, so both of you went into professions where you help people. That's very noble.
Yeah. And so my dad, I grew up, my earliest recollection was being in the firehouse. And just typical boy and his dad, the bell goes off, these guys run out, kick their shoes off, put their gear on, jump on the fire truck, and they go screaming out the door.
Right.
I mean, what little boy doesn't love that, right?
Sure. Or little girl. Let's not be sexist now.
Well, sorry.
Girls, you too can be a fire person.
And there's plenty of them.
Here's a question. Do fire women, is it fire women or is it firemen still? Is it like actors or both men and women, or is it, how's that work out?
I mean, you're a firefighter, whether you're a woman.
That makes
or
sense. Like flight attendant, they're not stewards and stewardesses anymore. Got it. All right. Yeah. See, I love learning stuff. Okay. Yeah. So you're a little kid, your mom had been burned badly, she married your dad, you and your sister are born. You're like, I want to be a fireman. Mm-hmm. Yes, cool. I went
to the Merchant Marine Academy for a short stint. Thought I wanted to do business, but really in my heart I didn't.
Yeah.
I came back. I was, 19, and I went to EMT school because you have to be an EMT before you're a paramedic.
Mm-hmm.
And
those are the prerequisites to be a firefighter.
Well, if you're a paramedic, like the paramedic's the highest trained medical person,
sure.
like in the field. So a lot of fire departments love paramedics just because you can cross train them easily, and
sure.
and they can do basically a lot of things that a doctor would do in the emergency room. So I was a paramedic I went right from EMT school to paramedic school. Usually you have to work like for a year or two, but I found out when you go to school they like your money, so they let me go right over.
Everybody likes money,
right? So I was a paramedic right at 21.
Okay.
And I was real young, and got on the fire department. I'm 21 years old. I was a professional firefighter paramedic.
What did you have to do to take the firefighter test? Is it a written test? Is it
you go to classes,
tall buildings in a steel bound, that kind of thing?
You go to classes and take tests and get your certifications. And the paramedic's the hardest. I mean, when I went, it was 2 years. 3 days a week, and you have to do over 1,000 hours of clinical.
Yeah, I suppose fighting a fire, it's sort of like fight the fire.
Yeah.
Whereas fix a human, a lot of stuff in a human that
sure.
can go wrong.
Pretty complex.
Yeah, rather.
Yeah.
Not me, but in general.
You're never complex.
You open me up, I'm just a couple little gears going around. There's a mouse in my head running really fast on a wheel. Yeah. Shocks doctors generally. Anyway, so you've taken the test. Is that young for a firefighter?
Very. I mean,
21?
In Indiana, I was in Indiana
like
at the time, and that was the minimum age. You couldn't be a professional firefighter unless you were 21 in Indiana. So yeah, I was right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me about the first time you had to. Well, I assume that you had in training they sent you into fiery buildings, but I think the brain tells you when you're in a training situation, it knows, and so you don't have that total panic because you have people that are there. But the first time you went into an actual fire, what was that like? Do you remember?
Well, when you get trained, the fires, they're fires, but they're in a controlled environment.
Sure.
So it doesn't really get you prepared for an actual uncontrolled fire in a house or a building, a commercial building or whatever. I do remember my first fire. Actually, it was just a story and a half house. Pulled up. What happened was a kid was playing with a lighter in the back of the house, and it was a back bedroom. So it was like a typical house. You go in, there's a living room. You go down the hall. To the right, there's a kitchen, and then that bedroom was off the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And we pull up, and there's heavy smoke blowing across the street, and you can see flames coming from the back of the house, and it was a good fire. It was a good job, and so the captain goes up, and he takes the door. We take the door, open it, and there's just jet black hot smoke to the floor. Can't see anything. And
you have respiratory, you have all sorts of things.
Yeah, it's called an SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus. So you have a mask on, you're breathing air. It's not oxygen. A lot of people say an oxygen mask, but oxygen is highly flammable.
That
right?
makes sense.
So that doesn't make, it wouldn't make any sense to wear something flammable.
No, not really.
It's just compressed air.
Oh, I never knew that. Okay,
Yeah.
So compressed air. Okay.
And he said, "Hey, stay right here." I was on the nozzle, and that's what in the fire department. That's what you want. You want to be on the nozzle, right?
Is that the water thing?
This is where the water comes out. Like garden hose at the end, you have the nozzle.
Yeah.
But on the fire hose, same thing, nozzle.
Okay.
The fire service, they call it a pipe. You want to be the pipe man. Everybody wants to be the pipe man. That's what it's all about, putting the fire out. So he said, "Stay right here." He went around back to call the windows out in the back to help ventilate, to get the hot gases and the smoke out, right?
Sure.
So he came back around to the front and he goes, "All right, let's go." And that was my baptismal cherry popping to fire. And I went in the house, and it was hot. Couldn't see. You instantly lose your ability to see anything. You have to use your other senses. You have to be really good at, your hearing, your feel, because you can feel even on your, maybe the right side of your body. It's hotter than your left side, which means the fire's probably over to your right.
Sure.
You can, like a campfire, people hear the crackling. You can hear that in fire. That's actually one of the things you're kind of looking for, or hearing, trying to listen for,
Yeah.
So I went down the hallway. I actually ran headfirst into that wall on the back side. And then I happened to look to my right, and I could see the fire licking out of that bedroom into the kitchen. And, I was pretty amped up. I'm like, Captain, I found it, you know. And so I
So
sprayed.
you're looking for the source.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to go to the source, the seat of the fire, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So the seat of the fire wasn't the kitchen. I could tell that it was, you know, it was all coming from that bedroom. And so I went into the kitchen, and he had never really gone into the house with me because he was trying to hump hose. So I thought he was behind me the whole time.
By the way, hump hose, for you listening that don't understand what that means, he wasn't having an erotic moment. That means he's carrying the burden of the hose, right? Yeah.
Right. Good. Sorry, you gotta. Yeah.
That's okay.
So he was kind of just inside the front door. So I was like, I had crawled through this house basically alone, and I looked back for him, and I yelled for him to give me more hose, right? To hump more hose, right?
Yeah.
And he did it. So I knew he could hear me, and then I got into the kitchen, and I made it to the doorway where the fire was, in the whole room, if you can imagine. It's called flashover. You know, when there's a fire, the contents of the room burn, and then when everything in that room reaches its combustible point, everything catches on fire. So
it doesn't need a flame to do it. It just
there needs a flame.
Okay.
Right, because the flame burns.
Oh, okay.
There's different
it's
stages.
not like a heat stage that it hits and then it just goes kaboom.
Well, everything in a room has its own combustible temperature. Like your kitchen table will burn at this temperature.
Oh, okay.
The drywall burns at this temperature. But the whole room was on fire. Yeah. Every inch of that room.
It was hot as
from
an
top to bottom
in there. Yeah.
Right. So I remember I made it to the room and I went, this is the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome. This is amazing. It just something, that moment, like you can't.
That's gotta be a weird thought, though. So you're sitting here, you're thinking, I'm in the middle of a burning house. Are there people in? But you're like, this is cool because it's the little boy in you that always wanted to be a fireman is now in the real moment.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, and you're kind of in the fire service. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I mean, you're gauged on toughness. Like mental toughness and physical toughness. And people want firefighters who can, everybody's afraid. I don't give a shit who you are. Like, if everybody has fear, but you have to be able to harness that fear. Mm-hmm. You have to tuck it away and be able to go in and do the job. So I got to the room and I just saw it for a second, and it's almost mesmerizing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right, let's put this thing out, and fire went out, and that was it.
So it had stayed in that room mostly. How did it reach the?
But it was working its way to the kitchen. Mm-hmm. Eventually, if we would have done nothing, the whole house would burn to the ground.
But if you get the seed, the rest is easy to maintain.
Like the seat of the fire?
Oh, seat. I thought you said seed.
No,
okay.
it's not.
Seat of the fire, then the rest is easier to maintain.
Yeah, you got to go to the seat of the fire. If you work your way to the seat of the fire, you can find where the fire is extended to. They call it extension. You got to check for extension. Maybe it went up into the wall and it's working its way up to the second floor. If there's a second floor.
It's wanting to get to that insulation, which probably burns like a mother.
Yeah, it burns. It burns. It stinks and it sticks to you, and it's just nasty. But yeah, you want to find the seat of the fire. That's the objective.
So, what rating are those suits? How, and then comparatively, how hot? Is there a limit to how hot a house can burn, or no limit because who knows what's in there?
Well, it can. I've been in fires that there was 1,000 degrees over my head. So that's not really an easy question to answer. I mean, there's all different
insane.
Temperatures. Yeah.
1,000 degrees.
Mm-hmm. And we did that was proof because we had a thermal camera in our hand that showed how hot it was at the ceiling level, and the captain put it up to the ceiling and it was red, and it was 1,000.
Are you sweating balls in there?
It's 100 pounds. You automatically, without even being in a fire, when you see a firefighter with his gear on, his helmet, his coat, pants, and all that, and the tank on his back, that's 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So he's automatically carrying 100 pounds. Sheesh. So we're not even got into the fact that he's going into an environment that's like an oven. And then he's dragging hose. He's searching for a victim. He's tripping over all your furniture.
Yeah.
There may be holes in the floor. I mean, there's just so many variables to the job. Yeah. And there's always stuff falling on you, right? Yeah. I mean, there's many stories of every firefighter, if they've been doing it long enough, can tell you, oh man, I had like a ceiling falling on me and knocked me to the floor. mean, those stories are just endless, you know.
You think it's just the movies?
Yeah, it's definitely not the movies. It's real.
Wow. So that was your first fire. You got it out. Was the boy inside?
No, nobody was inside.
Thank God.
Unfortunately, a dog didn't make it.
That breaks my heart.
Yeah, me too. But you know, unfortunately, that stuff happens.
Do you keep track of how many fires you've been in, or is that a weird?
Lost count.
Okay, I didn't know if that was sort of something that y'all did.
I did for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of guys do for a while, but then.
So how many years now have you been doing it?
Well,
I don't know how old you are. So.
34. So I did 15 years. You know, not all 15 years professionally, but a total. You know, I started volunteering when I was 18.
Yeah.
So.
What do they let volunteer firefighters do?
Are
they going in there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Because I know that volunteer firefighters fight brush fires and wildfires and things like that. And we just recently, didn't we lose a bunch of those last year fighting that big fire? It's so sad.
Yeah. It is.
Such a noble and terrifying and horrible thing. So have you ever been badly hurt?
Not badly hurt. No, I've been burned. Been burned on my hands and my neck. You know, just
sort of par for the course. Is that normal?
Yeah, I think if you're a firefighter long enough, you're gonna get burned. You know?
So I imagine, I'm not going to speak for you. That's what you're here for. But I imagine that the things you've seen are pretty intense, and I'm sure you've seen beautiful things too. Because I was saying before we started recording that I always notice that firefighters are the first on any scene of anything. It seems like. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that's true.
Sure.
It might be kind of a grand statement, but I'm almost positive that that's true. And so you probably see a lot of really wonderful and a lot of really horrible things.
Definitely.
So how do you deal with all that stuff? Is there firefighter therapy? Do you say you push stuff down, you put your fear away, but after a while that can't be super healthy.
For personally, when you a normal family, when they come home, and the parents come home, cook dinner, and you sit at the kitchen table and you talk about your day, right? It's a broad range of things. My conversation with my dad at the kitchen table was, somebody blew their head off, that a house fire, people were trapped in it. It was all the things you would never think a dinner time conversation would be, right?
Sure.
So I was predisposed to this as early as I can remember. Mm-hmm. So I kind of had, I think I'm mentally tough naturally, anyways. But I was ready for it when I got into it, and I don't have nightmares. I don't. I know some people do. I'm blessed. I don't think.
Knock on some wood on that.
Yeah, right. And then, but I can still tell you what a woman looks like when her husband just died. And I have to go tell her,
Sure.
I think I know that look. And I've seen that look over and over again, multiple times. Or what a dead person looks like in a car. It's not anything a human eye should ever have to see,
What does that do to you as a human being? Is that, to see, having seen someone die, likely in your arms, I'm sure you've experienced that, mm-hmm. both as a paramedic and as a firefighter, and then seeing the other side, the life side, the beauty. And I think there's sort of sometimes grotesque beauty in death, but death has its moments as well. Mm-hmm. Did that change? You say you grew up in that, and so the everyday dinner conversation was, this guy died, this lady died, this person, arm fell off, whatever. Do you think that made you... I'm trying to think of how to ask this. You wouldn't have anything to compare it to because that's all you've ever known, but when you look at your other friends and things who aren't in the field, do you think it's anyhow, for lack of a better word, warped your sensibilities or made you more callous or maybe made you more vulnerable, or in terms of your general life outside of what you do?
Sure.
And do you think your brothers and sisters of in firefighting have that issue, or?
That's a great question.
Because I would think seeing death a lot, mm-hmm. you would then value death more. Your options really are you'll value death more, or you'll be like, life, whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. No one's ever asked me that before. I think, as far as going to work, I don't think about this could be the day that I die. You know, I don't think really. I have a lot of buddies, and I don't think that we talk about it, but I don't think we think that way. You know, we go to work and we don't expect to see, you know, baked cookies and flowers growing. You know, when I go to work, I expect to see bad shit. Like
Sure.
Today is going to be someone's worst day, in whatever capacity that's going to be. Who knows? But I don't think I value life. I value how fragile it is, and I really honestly try to live every day the best I can be. You know, and I think kind of firefighters as a whole, we do as much as we can to live it up.
Yeah, it doesn't jeopardize loving relationships or friendships with that sense, sort of that.
In what way?
Well, I mean, look, relationships are hard, period.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest. But if you're in a situation where, even though you're not thinking today is going to be maybe a day I die, because I don't think you would be able to do your job if you went in with that mentality, right? Because then fear would sort of have taken you over. But that being said, when you're in relationships with your family and friends and lovers, it's always a possibility. So is there that sort of divide between you and another person, or is it not a big deal? I'm asking, this is sort of like the Cosmopolitan magazine section of the interview. Yeah. Tell me how it's your love. Is it hard to love? But you know what, I mean, I think it's an interesting question. That's what we live for, right? We grow up, we fall in love, we die.
Sure. I think it's for us. I can only speak for myself, but as broad, all of us, I think we are naturally loving. We're naturally nurturing.
Makes sense.
We naturally want to help fix a problem. We fix problems. That's what we do. Every day, all day, we fix problems, right? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if that's what makes us appealing to women, because we
I think
fix so
it's
much
a sexy
shit.
calendar.
When you're younger, right?
At any age.
I was in a calendar a long time ago. I was a lot skinnier though. I
Ladies, he is not. He is fine for a calendar.
I think we. It's tough. As far as relationships go, it takes a special person to understand. Kind of, and they don't understand, but it takes someone special to get the fact that we go to the firehouse for 24 hours. We're not at home, so that's hard enough.
Sure.
So you kind of want someone that's independent, that doesn't have to have us around all the time. But yet, when we come home in the morning and we are quiet, we may not talk, be as talkative as we normally are. And they can just sense something's not right. That they're strong enough person to say, what's going on? Like, talk to me, I want to help you. I have a lot of respect for someone that goes, I have no idea what you saw. I have no idea what you're going through, but I love you and I'm here for you.
Sure.
And I want to just talk about it if you want to. But it's just.
Do you find you need personally a lot of introspective time after a day, after a day's work? I imagine not every day is insane. You
right.
probably have some days where you're pretty chill. Cats and trees. Have you ever pulled a cat out of a tree? I gotta ask that one.
Oh my god!
Does that actually happen? Do people call the fire department?
It really does.
Oh my goodness!
But filling someone's swimming pool, people want that.
What?
Yeah, because the trucks carry a lot of water.
Are you for real right
serious,
now?
Yeah. We tried to. Me and a guy, we had a call once to pull a cat out of a tree, and we're like, okay, well, we thought it was someone's pet, right? But it was a feral cat, and we didn't figure this out until we were up in the tree, and the cat, obviously, a feral cat's not even going to come close to you, right? And we found out it was a feral cat, and I'm like, put some food at the bottom of the tree. The thing's going to come down eventually. Like everything is hungry
Your
eventually.
tax dollars at work, ladies and
Right. Honestly, we didn't do a lot of those.
Yeah.
I mean, every now and again
No,
we'll
that's
help
so
somebody.
funny. Yeah.
People appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I remember it wasn't that long ago that people were in a tither because people need things to be upset about about the fact that the firefighters would go to the grocery store to get their food, and people were upset that it was on company time. I was so mad at the people that were mad about that.
Right.
It was like, really? I mean, jeez.
Right. I mean, what do you expect us to do? Not eat?
Exactly.
We're there for 24 hours, and people say, well, you sleep. Well, we try to.
Yeah, but if the alarm goes off, you're up and out.
Yeah. I mean, our sleep
for 3 hours
patterns
and 2 hours
are so screwed up.
Yeah.
You never, hardly ever get a really good night's sleep. Even if you don't have a call in the middle of the night, you don't get that deep sleep like you would at home.
Sure, because you're kind of on call in your brain somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can criticize a lot of people's career choices, but I don't know, or what they do in their jobs, stealing some pens here and there, sticky notes, shouldn't shoot unarmed people. That's my own philosophy, but that's a whole nother story.
Right.
But it's pretty hard to find fault with a firefighter. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. I even my friends that aren't in the industry, they're loving people, obviously you, and
I'm a terrible person.
No, you're but I have just a broad range of friends, and I blend well, obviously, with the guys that, the men and women that do the job, but I also blend well with the people that don't.
Civilians. You can call us civilians. We don't mind.
That's okay.
So do you have any particular, anything that you've experienced that stands out to you?
Oh, there's just so many. Well, it's not like necessarily me. I mean, this firefighting isn't me, my.
No, of course.
It's definitely a team sport, right?
Sure.
And when you pull up on a fire and it's going, the fire's, really going good, everybody has their own job. Some guy, there's a team of guys that go in with the nozzle, the pipe, right, and put the fire.
You know that ahead of time? When you get to this fire, Joe's doing this, Sarah's doing this, Bill's doing this. Yeah, okay.
We're really good planners.
Ahead of time.
And we can really...
But when you get there, the fire could be different at any time. Does that change anything, or is it
sometimes?
Just... Okay.
Sometimes, but then again, we're really good at going up to a scene, whether it's a wreck or a fire, and because obviously it's chaos, it's uncontrolled, no matter what it is. And we go up, and we are the people that make those decisions to start to mitigate the situation. We try to harness it and stop it from getting any worse than what it already is, right?
Sure.
So we have an ability to, generally you have a plan that's already, everybody knows. But if the plan has to change, then, the boss or the captain or, the chief or whoever who's in charge can say, let's do this a little different. Let's go in and do it. Try to make the situation better. Sometimes you do, sometimes it doesn't want to work out in your favor, but we don't like to lose. Firefighters don't like to lose. We like to win. And it's pretty much a competitive sport. We're generally type A's, and tough. And I got friends that were on Chicago Fire Department. I got friends on New York City.
Sure.
And no matter where you are, even if you're a volunteer fireman, and those guys I feel bad for from the standpoint that they're volunteering.
Oh, the volunteers. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I mean, the guys I work with are great. They may be in the fields, because I was from Indiana, right? So I was in the middle of the farm fields, right? And they go out and they're working in the fields, and they get this call on this pager, and they go and they do the same thing I'm doing, but I'm at the firehouse waiting for it, right? So these guys aren't getting paid per se. I mean, they may make a little bit, but they're doing the same stuff.
Sure.
And Yeah.
What delineates the alarms? Because I've heard things we call, that's a 5 alarm or a 4 alarm. Or, is that a real thing, or is that a movie thing?
No, that's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
So generally, like, it depends kind of on the city structure too.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you get what's called a still alarm, STILL, still. That may just be like a house fire, right? Or may start as a small apartment. But then again, like apartments are usually a little bit bigger, so they may be what's called a box alarm. And all that means is like you get more companies, like companies meaning fire trucks.
Showing up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
On the initial dispatch. Like if it's a still, you may get, depending on the city. Every city's different. But for the sake of the story, let's just say you get 2 engines and a ladder truck. An engine's the truck that carries the water.
An engine is?
Yeah, a fire engine.
That's the one with the dog.
Yeah, right.
Don't you all get a dog when you arrive?
There's firehouses that have dogs.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah, usually they're dumpster dogs and we take them in, but they're good dogs nevertheless. But and then you have a truck company. Like that's the piece of equipment with the ladder on top.
Mm-hmm, to get to the top of the parts.
That they can use the ladder
help people. Or
sure. So you have the box alarm, and then that's maybe an apartment. So like if it's a box alarm, you'll get maybe 3 or 4 engines, a couple ladder trucks, and then maybe an extra chief, because the chief goes because he's like the boss, like the big boss. Like you gotta have a big boss, right? Mm-hmm. But on these fire trucks,
I don't have a big boss. That doesn't work out well with me.
That's another podcast. But every piece of equipment, like the ladder truck or the engine, has like an officer on it. Mm-hmm. And the officer's off. Then you put like generally the guy that's been there the longest up in the front seat because he generally can make sound decisions. But then you get, so if you go to an apartment fire and it's a box alarm, right? So you get all these companies going there. The chief gets there and he goes, man, this thing's getting out of control. We're having a hard time making the situation better. So the fire's getting bigger, right? He'll say, give me a second alarm. So then you'll have like maybe 2 more engines and another ladder truck and another chief come and maybe another rescue company or, because you have guys in rescue companies that their primary job is to search for people.
Still in the full regalia gear.
Always, right.
But they're not concentrating on the fire, they're concentrating on finding the people.
Sure.
Hopefully not bodies, but people.
Right.
Right.
So you have like the engine company, like I said, they put the fire out. The truck company, they do like, they search for victims, or they'll do any type of ventilation, like maybe cut a hole in the roof, knock out windows, do any forcible entry, like knock in doors or, force doors open. They have tools for that. Then you have maybe, if it's a bigger city, you have like a rescue company, and they may do just like searching for victims, or the chief may say, hey, grab another hose line and go in and help those guys put the fire out.
Sure.
So it just really depends on the department, where you're at in the country, and really the situation, because the chief might, mix it up a little bit. But, so...
Huh, very interesting.
Yeah, and then you can go from like a second alarm, third alarm, fourth alarm, fifth alarm.
They let people in the building when it's a 5 alarm, or do they?
Generally, at that point, it's a defensive fire, right? So you're just.
Those aren't very. They don't happen very often, right?
No, I mean not every. I mean maybe in the country they may happen. I don't know, once a month, once a week. I don't know. There's big fires in the country every day.
Okay.
But I don't know the statistics, but generally, if you're at a 5 alarm fire, some departments call it 511. Then you'll have you'll be outside with hose lines from outside.
Okay, nobody's in the building. If you that you hope
at that point.
I mean, none of the firefighters are in the building.
At that, you hope. I mean, you hope not at that point, right? I mean, there's been plenty of fires where we go into and it's getting bad, and the chief's out front going, "We're done. Pull everybody out," and there's a procedure where the dispatchers will do alarms on the radio, and then the guys on the fire engines will sound the air horns, and that means we can hear that, and that means get out of the building. So we'll leave the building and we'll transition from like an interior attack, they call it interior attack, to a defensive exterior attack. Mm-hmm. So
Do you have to make sure the buildings nearby? Do you hose those down as well to keep them from?
Depends.
Oh,
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is more of a chemistry question. So when I'm building a fire at the campsite, I blow on it to make the flames go up. So why, if you put holes in walls to get airflow, isn't that making more fire?
It can if you do it wrong.
Ah.
You know, and not necessarily wrong, but...
You're a sorcerer.
So, like, fire generally moves up and out.
Yes.
Like, it's a vertical and lateral traveler. Okay? So, when we cut holes in the roof, what we want to do is get the fire that's going up and out kind of channeled to go up through the hole, and then the superheated gases and stuff, they go... they travel up as well. That's why people say, if your house is on fire, stay on the floor, because all the smoke and everything goes to the ceiling first, right? And it banks down and starts layering as it gets worse. So yeah, all that superheated gas and fire and smoke goes through the hole, and then everything kind of inside lifts a little bit, that you may have a little bit of lift off the floor, so then it makes the heat less, the smoke less.
Makes sense.
And it makes it easier for the guys on the pipe, on the engine, to go in and put the fire out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you ventilate wrong, then you can control basically, not intentionally where the fire goes. You can pull the fire actually toward you, this way, that way. So you kind of, there's a rhyme and a reason to ventilating a building.
Is Backdraft your favorite movie?
Of course, I knew you were going to do it. I knew it was in there somewhere.
That was a very good movie.
That was based off...
a real arsonist?
No.
Oh.
Off two brothers in Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, the Hoff brothers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Ray and Bobby.
Is there a psych eval that happens to make sure the firefighters aren't actually arsonists? Because I would think if I was an arsonist, that would be the cream of the gene of the crop of a job.
Well, let me answer your question first.
Okay.
Previously, I love Backdraft.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Ladder 49 is good too.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so actually one of the best movies / documentaries I've seen is Burn. It's just called Burn.
Okay.
It's based on Detroit.
Oh.
Those guys have 80,000 vacant buildings in Detroit, and they get fires all the time.
Oh, man.
So if anybody wants to see a good documentary, you can YouTube it.
What a war zone.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
terrible.
It really is. So, what was your question again?
I know. It's something stupid, I'm sure. So, have you personally been in a situation where you thought, I'm not getting out of this?
Yeah.
Well, so, can you talk about that a little bit? And what sort of went through the brain pan?
There was, me. There were 5 of us total. We were up late. The captain was off. The senior man was in charge, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I distinctly remember to this day. I was actually in the living room, and I just happened to look at the clock, and it just hit 1, and all of a sudden, I hear a loud bang from the front door. About that time, the bells went off. So if you can put 2 and 2 together pretty quick and realize something's going on. So we ran down the steps, and there's people on the outside. They're yelling, "There's a fire! There's a fire over there!" And
from the fire station,
right? Not at the fire station, but close, right?
Okay.
So they're saying there's a fire. The dispatcher's actually talking now. We're running across the bays. There's people actually that had stopped along the apron of the doors, and they were all banging on the doors. So we knew we had a fire. We just didn't know where it was yet, right? Because she hadn't told us yet. So we popped the door. We opened the door to the fire station. We could smell it, right? Every firefighter knows what this smells like. You know you're going to a job. But then it was an apartment building 2 blocks away from the firehouse. So we're driving down, and we can't see it from the firehouse, but when you pass a certain block, you can look over and just get a great shot of it. And we pull past the block, and there's just black smoke billowing out of the 4th floor of this apartment building. So this is the real deal. So we pulled up. The guy that was in charge, great guy, good officer, he's a chief today, but he said, hey, this is what we're going to take up the hose, because we knew we were going to go up a stairwell. We're not going up the elevator. We knew we were going up a stairwell. So we needed a lot of extra hose, right? Well, when I got off, there was a policeman that came right up to me and he goes, there's a woman trapped on the fire floor. We couldn't get up there. It's too bad. But she's up there. And so we make our way down the hall, and the whole time there's people passing us, old people. This place it's 1 o'clock in the morning on a weekend, and it's full of people. So these people are passing us. We're saying, just keep going, and we make our way around the stairwell, and we get up to the 3rd floor. So we get up to the steps to the 4th floor, and we can see there's smoke it's black, jet black, hot, acrid smoke. It's a foot off the floor. And as we were going up the stairwell, it was interesting too, because there were people just the whole time, and
passing us,
old folks, and they were obviously pretty scared. So we get up there, and we get on the 4th floor, and you can barely see your hand in front of your face. And the plan was that me and the guy that was in charge, we were going to go find the lady. We had an idea of where she was, but we didn't know exactly where she was. And then the other, there were 2 guys up there, because the 5th guy was down. He was on the truck directing water to the hose lines, right? So the other 2 guys were going to go put the fire out. They put the fire out, we find the lady. We meet up, get her downstairs, get more help. We're the only 4 guys there.
Probably because you lived...
Yeah, we were 2.5, 3 blocks away, right? So we get up there, and the whole plan just changed instantly. Like, back to what I say, if you get into a situation, we're pretty good at instantly going, no, plan's changed. This is what we're going to do. He goes, we got to all now, 4 of us, put this fire out. It's getting bad. The conditions are deteriorating rapidly. So what had happened was, we took extra hose up there. So what we had done, we took the first set of hose up, which has a nozzle on the end, right? That pipe I was telling you about. Sure. And then we connect another section of hose off that nozzle. You can just screw it in, and then you take and you extend your hose line, right? So we get up there, but you got to open that nozzle like it's like a relay. You got to open that nozzle for the water to go into your next hose line, right? Well, the conditions were getting so bad so fast, that nozzle wasn't on the floor below like it should have been. It was on the fire floor, and we couldn't find it. So I was, and it was getting hot, and then that's when he looked up and he saw 1,000 degrees. And it was getting really, really hot. And I was with a guy, his name's Brett, good guy. He and I were looking for it. I couldn't find it.
The nozzle.
I couldn't find.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the other guy's on the very, very end of the nozzle, and he's like, "You guys got to find this nozzle. You got to get the little water in this line." And I'm like, "We're trying, And,
are you on walkie-talkie? Is that?
Well, we could muffle. I mean, we had our mask on, but we were within like a 10-foot radius of each other.
Sure.
I couldn't find it. And I don't know. I just got. Part of me's like, we're fucked. Like I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna quit finding this thing. But I'm not making any progress, And Brett somehow, I don't know how he did to this day, but he found it. And all of a sudden you hear just the air rushing through, because there's always air that kind of rushes through the line first. He found it, opened it up. And then the door got kicked in, and we all kind of charged into this apartment and put the fire out, And then by that time, the air in our tanks, it's supposed to last generally, on average, 30 minutes. But
that's all?
Yeah, but that's a long time in a fire. 30 minutes is a long time. Generally, you're looking, depending on your breathing rate, how amped up you are, what's going on, 15 minutes, So we put the fire out, or got it under control. Then our bottles started, the bells and stuff on the bottles started going off, meaning we got to go get new bottles, right? So we went downstairs, and there was more guys now coming upstairs to look for the lady. And then we got downstairs. There's a picture of us. I have it. We're all on the ground. People are putting new bottles in. We're talking about the game plan. Well, the guy gets on the radio and goes, I found this woman. She's on the fourth floor, and she was. If we would have went up the stairs to the fourth floor, we went left to put the fire out because the apartment was to the left. She was just to the right in the first apartment. She was right off the stairs, but her door was closed. Thank God, right? And thank God the guy.
Why? Thank God.
Because doors are the best things to stop. To inhibit fire travel.
Really?
Oh yeah. Doors are great. That's why people say shut the door if you're trying to leave a fire, because doors are great stoppers. They won't stop it forever. Eventually, everything burns up, right? And you don't put water on it, but they will hold a fire off for a long time. So this dude was pissed at his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend. Put stuff on her stove, set that apartment on fire, but he shut the door as he left, which saved a lot of people. There have been people dead in that place. So he shut the door. Hence, when we kicked the door in.
So he was just trying to burn his girlfriend's apartment up?
Yeah.
Oh, what a dick.
Yeah. So he goes, hey, I found a woman. So I run up, and this woman she was a heavier set woman.
Yeah.
They were obviously having trouble. I met him right at on the stairs coming down from the fourth floor. I grabbed a leg. There was another guy on a leg, and the other two guys were on an arm.
She was unconscious.
Yeah, she wasn't breathing very well at all. She was dying. I mean, this woman was in bad shape. Barely alive. So we drug her down. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but we drug her down. We drug her all the way down the hallway, out the front door. The ambulance, whoever was on the ambulance came and picked her up, took her to the hospital, and yeah, she made it. She visits the firehouse all the time. She comes in. Judy. Her name's Judy. Hi, Judy. She's a great woman.
Did you think you weren't going to get out of that one?
We did. I think we talked about it after, and that guy he's a chief today. He was in charge that night. He goes, and even the other guy, he had a lot of experience too. They're both great firemen. They said, I thought we were done. I'm like, thought we were done too, but I wasn't leaving. I wasn't leaving you. I wasn't leaving the fire. I wasn't leaving. We were just gonna keep going. That's just what we do. We're in it together. It's a brotherhood, and we're in it together. And, yeah. So that was pretty bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad she made it. Good Judy.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
And I hope that guy is now in prison.
I don't remember.
I'm sure he is. I mean, if they knew who he was and everything.
I don't know if he's still in prison, but I'm pretty sure he went there for a while, yeah. As he should have.
Did anyone die in that?
Not one person.
Oh, God bless. Awesome.
So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. They always say when you see a serviceman or woman in the military, you should go up and thank them. But it seems to me that police and firemen deserve our thanks just as much.
Definitely.
So.
Yeah, definitely. I think.
It's sort of like the unsung heroes, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every single day you're going out there and you're doing this stuff, and regular folk like me don't really think about it. You don't think about the fire persons unless you see them at the grocery store, buying up dinner, and you're like, hey, what's up? But I don't know. It's that weird sort of thing about that service, that branch of service. Mm. Is it considered militarily?
No, well, it's paramilitary.
Paramilitary.
Yeah, there's a lot of military values. It's not the military, right?
Oh, okay.
But we follow a lot of the military, like code and ethics and guidelines. There's rank and structure, and chain of command, and all that stuff. And yeah, you don't know when you see a fireman or a policeman, paramedic or an EMT.
Them too. I don't mean to leave them out.
Yeah, they're not ambulance drivers.
I have some very dear friends who are flight nurses and regular hospital nurses, and I mean, that's a heck of a job.
Sure.
I don't know, when you people sleep, for God's sakes, it's like there's no sleep. ever.
Try to.
It's amazing that you can do what you do. The adrenaline levels must just be through the roof.
Yeah, get pretty amped up sometimes. For me, like it's...
Do you do yoga or meditation?
Yoga is actually awesome.
Yeah.
Like I love core yoga, like just from a stretching standpoint. Like you know, just to keep your muscles and everything stretched out. I love it. I'm a big yoga guy.
What about your mind, though? I mean, I know I keep bringing this up, but how do you go through this stuff day after day after day and experience this and not have your mind just sort of say, excuse me, but this is sort of fucked up, man.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
How do you find your happy place? How do you get zen with it all? And I mean, is it just so matter of fact for you at this point? Or, I mean, do you ever break down and cry? I know you're, a manly man, you've got a beard and everything, but you're a human being. I mean, I imagine some kids, you see everything. You probably see people at their worst and their best, as do police officers, but I mean...
I've cried.
Yeah. How could you not?
I have. I went to a wreck once where it was me, one of the guys I was in that fire with, actually. He was a captain at this point. And 2 guys on the ambulance, 4 of us. What had happened was grandfather and grandmother drove from Wisconsin to Indianapolis, which is a hike, picked up 3 of their grandkids. And they ranged from, maybe 9 to 14. And they were going to the place where I'm from, and there's an amusement park there. So you go from to Wisconsin down to Indy, an hour and a half north of Indy, and that's a hike for anybody. So now throw, an elderly person on top of that. That's in the summer, all day driving, So he was tired, and he was 2 miles from town, 2 miles. And he came around a corner, and he fell asleep, and he hit a truck head on.
Jeez.
And we just started watching a movie. Like, it was a beautiful summer day, and the bell goes off for a wreck. Generally, like, if you get a really bad wreck, like the dispatchers, when you're en route to the wreck, like, they'll come back and go, there might be people dead here. They have verbiage for it, but basically that's what they're saying. Bad wreck, blah blah blah. Like, there wasn't a word, and it was a little bit of a drive. And we pulled up, and the car hit the truck so hard, the back tires of the car were off the ground.
Whoa.
And I pulled up right next to the car. The guy in the truck was fine, he was walking around. And I could see, when I was in the truck, I pulled up, I could see someone in the back. I could see the woman in the passenger seat. She looked dead. And I remember saying to Steve, the captain, I said, "This is a bad one." And he goes, "Yeah, it really is." And so he jumped out, I jumped out, and I went around. I felt for a pulse in the kid in the back. Nothing. He was dead. Went to the woman, the grandma. I could only get to her neck up because she was pinned. The dashboard and everything came on top of her. Dead. So I go around the other side of the car. I could see car door. The back car door was open. The rear driver's side. And about that time, he was a newer paramedic, great guy. He comes run up to me and he goes, "The driver, he's barely alive. You got to get him out. You got to cut him out. He's going to die." And I said, "Hold on." I walked around the car, and the guy was actively dying. And the steering wheel, if you can imagine, I don't know if you can imagine, there's people listening, but when he had his, obviously driving with his hands, and he hit the steering wheel so hard with his chest that the part you hold your hand was bent, both sides bent completely back around.
Whoa. And
his chest was kind of sitting up against the part where you honk the horn, where the airbag would come out. The airbag did come out, but obviously it wasn't doing anything. But, so obviously that's pretty significant hit, and he was
internally.
Yeah, bleeding internally in his chest.
Sure.
And I said, he was pinned in the car. I said, he's going to die. He's not going to make it. Who do we have that's alive? Who do we have that's viable? And he said, there's 2 kids back behind the car, and some bystander had pulled them out. That,
Are you supposed to do that or not supposed to do that? I've heard.
It's there's a lot of variables to it. Generally speaking, it's not the best idea, but I don't want people to hear me say, well, he said not to pull him out,
right,
but the car's on fire.
Right, sure.
I mean,
there are variables.
Use some common sense,
sure.
But someone had done it. They laid the girl on the ground. And I remember I walked around the corridor. I couldn't see her, but when I walked around the corridor, it was this little, 10-year-old girl. And her lips were blue as a Smurf. And she was pasty pale. And I remember saying, her aorta's dissected. I mean, they have a general appearance like she was just blood-curdling, screams for her mom. Like she was screaming for her mom. It was intense. And I said, you got to get her to a trauma center. She needs a pediatric trauma surgeon. Her brother was behind her, the other brother, and he was messed up, but he wasn't dying. So they get her in the ambulance. They get going to the hospital. I stay back and cut the dead people out of the car.
Hey.
And bag them up. And so then the doctor told us that little girl screamed for her mother the entire time in the emergency room. That's all she said. Didn't say anything else.
Poor baby.
The surgeon said she was screaming for her mother. She goes into surgery. Get her out of surgery. She's in recovery. She wakes up enough to scream for her mother again. Her mother walks in the room, says, baby, I'm here for you. I'm here. Mommy's here. And she dies instantly. So, just shit like that. I mean, how do you... But this is just my story. There's firefighters, paramedics, policemen. There's people like this everywhere in the country, the world, that have stories like this. This is just shit that my eyes have seen.
That's such a heavy soul moment.
Yeah.
The little girl, some part of her is like, this is it for me. I want to see my mom one last time. And then when she had that, she was able to let go. I mean, jeez. It's almost the only thing in an unbearable situation that can bring any sort of peace. I mean, do you believe in a higher power? Yeah.
Yeah,
not that you have to, but I mean...
No, I really do. All the people, that I've taken to the hospital, especially the cancer patients, you're just dealing with them, they'll look at you and they'll say, I'm tired. The civilian may go, and I've heard this a ton of times, take a nap, get some rest. That's not what they mean.
They're tired of living.
Yeah, they're done.
Yeah.
They just want it to end. And I know exactly what they mean.
They want the morphine train.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do. And, there's a lot of... I've met people that have, seen things, and, whether someone believes in it or not, it gives me comfort to believe in that.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So, I know after all the bad shit I've seen, and the service that... the way I've tried to help people, that, hopefully the gates are pearly and beautiful and it's all good.
No fire anywhere. So for people listening, I know I'm curious, what is probably one of the top causes of residential issues? Where if somebody could do something to sort of protect themselves a little bit better or not be an idiot.
Like what you said, what's the top cause for residential fires? Well, it depends where you're at and what neighborhood you live in.
Oh, really?
In Detroit they have I think 5 classifications for arson alone.
Oh, that's so sad. Really?
Right. So yeah, it just depends.
Man.
Generally you could look at it this way.
People of Detroit, stop burning things down.
You can look at it as arson, electrical, some sort of accidental kid playing with a lighter.
Sure.
So yeah, you can look at it and those.
Best chance of survival: get on the floor, shut a door. What? Get in the bathtub. I mean, if you can, put the water on. What?
I think the best thing for me, the best advice I could give would be to, one, pre-plan, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Have a designed area outside where your family can go. If there's a fire in our house, we're all going to try to meet at the big tree in the front yard.
I don't think people do that very often, do they?
No.
Have a plan.
No, and you need to talk about it. You need to have all this shit figured out before it actually happens, right? So you need to have a plan where you're going to meet, and change your batteries in your smoke detector every 6 months. People with time change, that's easy because they just recommend doing it when the time goes forward or backwards, right?
Sure.
And if you do if you are in a house and you're on a second floor or something and you can't get down to the first floor, shut the door to the room, separate yourself from the hallway, make sure you shut the door, put a towel on the door at the bottom, stay to the floor.
Or a blanket or something.
Anything, just to close the crack of that door. Generally a wet towel, a damp towel, but you may not have a bathroom right there.
Sure.
Right? So,
start peeing, people.
Yeah. So it's
gonna save your life.
What's save your life? Urine.
Urine
and luck. But bang on.
You're in luck. That's awesome.
Oh my god.
We're here to help people.
Yeah, we really are trying to help you.
I'm totally making a t-shirt. You're in luck.
You're in luck.
Oh my god.
But bang on the window, bang on the make yourself known. However you can. You want to try to obviously get out of the house, but if you can't get out of the house,
make it known that you're in there.
Make it known you're in there. Shut the door.
And don't stop for the family heirlooms.
Yeah, don't. And
do you get that a lot? Do people do that?
Oh yeah, people, they'll run out. This is how people die the most common way. They run out, realize, oh my god, I forgot, Brutus the dog, and they're like, they run back in and they die.
Yeah.
And
I can understand wanting to run in after an animal. That makes sense. I meant an inanimate object. Not that I'm advocating running in after your animal, but I'm just saying that I can understand why people do that.
Sure. But I think that's the only thing really. Try to get out of the house. If you can't get out of the house, then
pee everywhere.
Pee a lot. Drink a lot of water. That's why you drink water every day.
Keep hydrated, people.
Yeah. So put something.
And for girls, you too can pee standing up with direction. It just takes a little practice. Just saying. That's true.
But there's everybody. Please fire EMS.
Fire EMS.
Police, fire, and EMS, whether you're an EMT or a paramedic. People should keep in mind that. If you see them at the store, if you see them out and about,
say thanks.
Say thanks, because a half an hour before that, they could have been, picking a dead person up off the road or seeing something that no one's eyes should ever see.
Right.
And people don't think about that. They just look at it for what it is, in the now. But we've been talking about bad stuff. I've seen a lot of great stuff too. I had a woman once that. This is a good story. This is a pretty.
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay, I think you'll like it. But we got a call for an unknown problem, and me and another guy go out there, and we got in the driveway, and I looked, and there's a car in the driveway with the driver's door wide open, and the car's kind of erratically parked in the driveway. That's odd. That's just common sense. That's just odd.
Yeah.
So the garage door was open, so I said, hey, I'll go in the house. Why don't you go in the front door, and we'll see what's going on. When I go in the house, there's this elderly man. I mean, he was, at the time, this is years ago, he was old. He was watching Jeopardy, and he had it on, full tilt. And he didn't even, turn to see there were strangers in his house. He just kept watching Jeopardy.
It's probably double Jeopardy.
It probably was. Yeah. So he goes.
Important stuff.
So I look over on the other side of the kitchen counter, and there's a woman not breathing with a phone in her hand. The phone is in her hand, and she's on the ground, and she had no pulse, so she was clinically dead. And so I'm like, all right, we'll start CPR. So we're doing CPR, and I looked in the back of her throat with a piece of equipment, and I looked in the throat, and I remember, I'm like, this woman choked to death. Like, there's ham all over the back of her throat. So I put a breathing tube in her throat, gave her some oxygen for a little bit, and she didn't totally wake up, but she started improving vastly.
So she mustn't have been down long.
No, not at all. No, she wasn't down long.
Yeah.
And
how long can you go without oxygen to the
brain? 10 minutes is when you start having, if you have no oxygen in your brain for 10 minutes, then you start having irreversible brain
death. Then you become a politician.
Yeah. A lot of different podcasts here today. This is going to be we got a month's worth of material. So, she started kind of coming around, and so I gave her some medicine to make her go to sleep so she'd be comfortable. And right before I did, I said, if I'm breathing for you, I don't know what happened with you, but I think you choked on ham. But if you understand what I'm saying, blink twice. And she blinked twice. I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you some medicine to go to sleep, and you'll wake up a little bit later. But that's what we're going to do right now. And because she started kind of waking up with a tube in her throat, and that's scary.
And she's trying to yell out the Jeopardy answer. And
right.
You're like, no!
Right.
Get her out.
I'll take what the fuck for 1,000. So she goes, we get her in the ambulance, get her to the hospital, and I dropped her off, and I come back about an hour later, and she's sitting up in bed, like you and I right now.
We're not in bed, people.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Let's
get that
She was in a hospital bed. We're at a kitchen table. Big difference. So, but she goes, yeah, my chest is kind of sore. And I'm like, hey, listen, what exactly happened? And she said, I was eating a ham sandwich, and I started choking, and I pulled in the driveway, ran out of my car, and went to dial 911, but I couldn't speak. She had total airway occlusion, right? And then she just doesn't remember what happened after that. So, but I said, who was the guy watching Jeopardy?
I think we all want to know that.
In the living room. And she's like, oh, I'm his caregiver. And I'm like, that guy never, ever even turned his head.
While you guys were working on her?
Not once. He didn't.
Did he know? Was he deaf?
He had no there's like 5, 6 strangers in his house. Like 10 feet behind him. How would you?
It's like a really horrifying SNL skit.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, hey, it looks like today we got the Daily Double, and we got the final question right.
Oh my gosh.
So forward 2 years later, my uncle goes, hey, I'm going to a party tonight. My friends, would you like to come? And I said, sure. It was a man and his wife, and so we're sitting out, having a couple drinks, talking about whatever they do on the firemen, and they're going. She goes, of course, everybody always does. Like, what's the craziest thing you've seen? And I don't like to talk about it. This isn't like about me. It's us. Like,
sure,
it's a team sport.
But it's still, you have stories. It's okay.
So I'm like thinking, okay, like, what's the story I could tell them that had a good ending? And I'm like, well, I'll tell them the choking lady story. It's a great ending. Tell them the whole story what I just told you. At the end, she goes, was her name such and such? I said, yeah. She's like, that's my mom.
No way!
Yeah, I swear to God, true story.
Weird.
Yeah, she's like, that's my mom. And she started crying.
Aww.
Yeah, we're still friends to this day.
That's awesome.
And they ended up bringing her mom to the awards banquet when all of us got recognized for that call.
Aww.
Yeah.
Did they serve ham?
No, I think ham was off the menu.
That'll teach you. Gotta eat bites. You gotta chew your food.
Right.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to talk about that might...
Any other questions you have?
How long does it take you to grow that full beard and mustache? That is epic.
Like 7 days.
Yeah. You're a fuzzy dude.
Thanks. Genetics.
Yeah. He's a bear, ladies.
No, come on, Zeus.
Thank you so much, Brooks, for being on Hey Human. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was. I didn't know what to expect, but it was nice.
It really is awesome. For those of you who are interested, stick around and hit the extra content for more from Brooks.
Everybody thank a firefighter, a policeman, an EMT, and a paramedic. And thanks for listening. Hope you appreciate it.
I know I did. Now since we're in bed together and all.
Yeah, no doubt. Jeez. Eating ham.